Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk about what works and what doesn't, and how we can create real change, that deep systemic change that we all want, right? Because I got a question. What really works? Like marching and rallies, does that actually do anything? In North Carolina, we have marches and rallies all the time. Then Tillis and Burr or the General Assembly just do whatever they want, and that's the end of it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what works and what doesn't? Everything works. Everything works, and all of it will fail. Everything works together. Nothing works separately. So, petitioning, marches, getting directly involved, calling your senator, electoralism in general, all of it works together. None of it works separately. It's very rare that one type will be successful. That doesn't happen very often. It's diversity of tactics. We talked about this in that video on South Africa. It's not a moment, it's a movement. Consistent effort being pushed forward to create that change. But when we talk about South Africa, other countries in general, it's hard for people in the United States to relate because it is so far removed. So let's talk about stuff we know. Everybody today is familiar with Black Lives Matter, right? Everybody's familiar with that. The first time I heard that was in Ferguson in 2014. And it wasn't new. It started the year before. It was just the first time I heard it. It's been all of this time, all of that effort. And they're just now starting to get some real change that you can actually see. They're nowhere near done. And that was not a weak movement. They are still going strong today. That idea, that concept, it's still there. It's not any individual march or rally or signature drive. It's not any individual event, any individual action. It's not a moment, it's a movement. Something that illustrates this really well, especially for Americans. Our revolution, the American Revolution. You ask anybody in the U.S., when was the American Revolution? 1776. No hesitation on that one. Go ahead and pull up a timeline of the American Revolution. See when it starts. Odds are it will start 1754. That's conventional wisdom. It's including the French and Indian War. I actually disagree with that take. I think that was more of a primer to make the colonists realize that they could do something. But I don't think that it really fed into it the way it gets portrayed a lot. I would say 1765 with the Stamp Act. And that is when the colonists went wild. Wild. They did stuff that made last summer seem tame. And maybe that's why we don't talk about it so much. That's why we say 1776, because we need to preserve that American mythology rather than the American history. Most of the events that you would say are part of the timeline of the American Revolution occurred before 1776. The Tea Party was 73. The Boston Massacre, 1770. The shot heard round the world, the start of the revolution, right? You remember the song, Schoolhouse Rocks? 1775. It's not a moment. It never is. And then you ask people when it ended, because you have the 1776 thing, then there was the whole conflict. Most people say that it wrapped up and we're done 1783, and that's the end. But that's not true either, because it wasn't until 1788 that the Constitution was finally ratified. So you're talking from, using my abbreviated, shortened timeline, 1765 to 1788, almost a quarter of a century. It is never a moment. It's never a single march. It's never one thing. So, what do? Whatever you're best at, whatever you're really good at, whatever your skills are, those are the skills you need to use to further that drive for systemic change. That's where you have to focus. Yeah, show up to the march, show up to a rally, engage, stay active at all times. But don't count on any individual event mattering in and of itself, because odds are it won't. Most times when something seems to spring to life and get real traction, there were people working behind the scenes on that for years. Organizing is hard. Creating change is hard. Systems are reluctant to change. And that's what you're trying to do. So, at the end of the day, the most important part to remember is that it all works, and that diversity of tactics is the most important thing. You know, another question I got was, how do I decide who I'm going to promote on Twitter or on YouTube or whatever? Because none of them are like me. Literally the point. that is one of the big criteria right there. If you are exactly like me, you carry the same message, can reach the same people, there's no sense in me promoting you. It's got to be somebody else. That diversity of tactics. Somebody that is moving towards the same goal in a different way. That's more valuable than creating a clique of people like me. It's hard, and it's hard to stay motivated when you have to acknowledge that what you're going to do tomorrow by itself, it means nothing. It isn't going to matter in and of itself. But what you're going to do over the next year will. Each little piece, each little action is one moment in that movement. And that's what we have to focus on doing, is keeping up that forward momentum, keeping that drive to create that change, to get that world where everybody gets a fair shake. It's kind of thankless initially. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.